Have you watched the episode on Den of Kings on Black men and mental health with Kirk Franklin, Kevonstage, NLE, Jonathan Majors, Ray J, and Dr. J Barnett? Well, if you haven't, you probably should, because it was really good. And there's some things that I want to talk to you about from a licensed therapist perspective with a Christian therapist lens. So I literally just got done watching this, y'all. So all of the thoughts that I have are very fresh and top of the mind. Normally when I do videos like this, I normally have my notes and everything is real polished on what I want to say. But this time I felt like I needed to speak from the heart. So if things are not as polished as they normally are, please forgive me. Now, I became aware of this episode because it happened to pop on over to the Shade Room, okay, on Instagram, where Jonathan Majors told NLE to go ahead and read your Bible and read it again. And I said, ooh, that prompted me to come on over to YouTube to watch the full episode. It's about an hour and 45 minutes long. So if you want to check it out, go for it. And put in the comments, what did you think about it when you do? But if you haven't, on over to Kirk Franklin's YouTube channel, check it out, and then come back and chat with us in the comments because it's juicy. The first thing that I want to talk about is how powerful it was for all of these Black men from different walks of life to come together at a table to have a conversation that is not typically had. I mean, how often do we really see Black men gather and talk about mental health, talk about their feelings, talk about their thoughts, talk about their experiences in a raw form where they're not judged by each other? Obviously, you can have your own personal perspectives and what you think about each of these men that were at this table. That could be good or bad, but I think Kirk Franklin did an amazing job with bringing these men together. And I think he did a great job also with facilitating the conversation because it did get a little turned up at some moments. One of the things that I thought you guys probably thought was amazing and good, but from my perspective, I thought that this was interesting, is that Kirk went around the table and wanted to know from each man, like, what brings you joy? What brings you happiness, right? And almost everybody that answered this question related their joy and their happiness to somebody else. Oh, I'm the most happiest when I'm with my kids. Oh, I'm the most happiest when I'm providing for my family. Oh, I'm the most joyful when I'm helping other people. And I'm like, I get that. We love a good Black man who's taking care of their responsibilities, who's being a great dad, who's being a great provider, who's being all of those things, and who's not being a loser. But at the same time, I'm wondering what that happiness and joy would be like if it was just you. I want you to think about it. If all of those external things got stripped away, family, friends, money, celebrity, cars, all of those things that a lot of them talked about, if that went away today, what would bring you joy? What would bring you happiness? Nobody mentioned something that was just for them, right? It was always attached to somebody else. And I think that that speaks to the Black man's experience where they always have to provide. They always got to show up and they just can't be themselves because it will be weaponized if they did show even a drop of vulnerability. So they live their lives being a provider, being a fixer, being there for everybody else when is anybody there for you? Every single person had their own trauma story. I mean, Dr. J Barnett talked about his career and like suicide attempts and overdoses. Jonathan Majors, we know what went down with him, talking about everything that he went through in the limelight with his previous relationship. NLE, who I've never heard of, honestly, before this interview. I was like, I guess I'm old because baby, who is this? No shade or disrespect, but he talked about how he grew up in the hood and all of these different experiences and how he's seen people pass away and he did things that weren't cool either. I know a lot about Kirk Franklin's history and his story because he's been transparent. And I also did another video when Kirk Franklin did his own documentary about the process of finding out who his biological father is. I'll link it up here and put it in the description as well because that was powerful when he talked about his father and being adopted and all of these things that he experienced in his life. It makes sense, some of the things that happens, especially with like his kids and generational trauma. Also seen Ray J, whom we're gonna talk about in a second, and all of, even Kevonstage, when he shared about his grief with his brother. I didn't even know that story. I knew his brother passed away, but I didn't know how. And to see him cry in front of all of those other men, and he wasn't pushed down, he wasn't shamed upon, like nobody said man up. Even Ray J got up and kind of like tried to console him and like pat him on the back and be like, man, I feel you on that. Like that was powerful. I have to talk about mental health, Black men, and using psychotropic medication, meaning medication for mental health. Jonathan Majors mentioned that he's on medication, and even Kirk Franklin mentioned that he also has been on medication previously in regards to depression and anxiety. We don't hear Black men talking about being on medication because it's stigmatized. It's stigmatized in the Black community in general. We're still just trying to work on people going to therapy at a very minimal level, let alone talking about, oh, I have to take medication to maintain my mental health and my mental state. This is one of the reasons why I wrote my small pocket-sized book, Staying Sane in an Insane World, for this type of conversation. I know that in the Black community, we do not really rock with the whole therapy thing. Some people will never go to therapy, but they may read a book. And so I wrote this book because it lays out the very basics and the fundamentals of what mental health is and how we can achieve that and go to the next level in every area of our life. So I'll put it on screen and put it in the description if you want to grab a copy of that at stayingsaneworld.com. It seemed like nobody was really vibing with Jonathan on that level. Like, yeah, you on your own on the medication piece, until Kirk was like, let me be honest. Like, you being truthful and honest about taking medication has allowed me to share and be vulnerable. And I've never even mentioned this before in a public platform, but I also was taking medication for anxiety and depression when my life got a lot of lows, really deep lows, as he shared. So it just reminded me of how like the word talks about we overcame him, meaning the enemy, by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So when we speak up and we say, hey, I've been through that too. Hey, I'm a little nervous to say this, but I experienced this. And you share what you have gone through, you share your testimony. You never know who's watching. You never know who's listening. You never know who you're going to impact on a very deep level. So instead of keeping it all in and being like, ooh, no, that's the enemy telling you to keep it in. Make sure you share things at the level in which you're ready to, because it can impact so many others' lives. Now, I think the only person that wasn't a believer, so to speak, or Christian was NLE. When he started speaking, I immediately knew, I was like, this is giving not Christian, because he kept talking about source. And I'm like, when people start saying source and other things, and they're not saying God, they're not saying Jesus, they're not saying the Holy Spirit, it's different, right? And there's no shade. Everybody has their different religious preferences. But because he was the only one that didn't have that Christian background and that Christian upbringing where they grew up, or he grew up in the church, he had a very different experience. And that's what caused a lot of conflict in the conversations that they were having. NLE said he was only 22 years old. Let's pause here, because if you have listened to anything that I've ever said on my channel, your brain isn't fully developed until you're about 25 to 26 years old. So that means at 21 and 22, your frontal lobe, your brain, is not fully developed to make the choices and to do the things that you're supposed to do. So while he was very articulate and he's been through some things, right, there's still a lot that he needed to learn. And I felt as though he didn't allow other people to speak at times, and he tried to over-relate, which came off as a little bit combative. The other men at the table were trying to share with NLE that there's a difference between the end outcome of a situation and the journey, right? So NLE was all about the end outcome. Yep. When you get there, yep, I know God's got me. Yep, I've been through this. Yep, I know where my source comes from. Yep. And it's like, okay, but what about that process and that journey in between where it's like, ooh, I am struggling with my faith. Yeah, I'm feeling like these prayers ain't working. I am humiliated in front of the world, right? I got court cases, all types of stuff is happening, and people's eyes are on me, and I just feel low. And there's no amount of prayer, oh, you got a kid, oh, God, oh, your family, that can pull you out of that unless you've truly been there before. Like, when your low is low, it's low. And I think that's what Jonathan Majors was trying to express to him, was like, there are just some moments and some things that you experience as an adult on this journey that makes you feel like there's nothing that can help you, especially when a lot of them talked about self-harming, like Dr. Jay Barnett talked about, and a lot of them talked about wanting to end their life as well and unalive themselves. Like, that was a huge thing. Multiple times, a lot of them was like, hey, there were times in my life where I did not want to be here anymore. Ever been suicidal? and been in that deep of a depression, it's hard to wrap your mind around because people want to get you to the end result. It's all good. I'm gonna pray for you. Oh yeah, God's got you. Don't trip. You know, joy comes in the morning. Like all of those things are probably true, but in that moment, you don't feel like it is. For all of these brothers to have, you know, that Christian upbringing and to be raised in the church and have their own experiences, and they all basically stated like the church didn't really do a great job because there's some things that I learned that wasn't a representative of Christ or that had nothing to do with Jesus. Y'all got those stories. If you grew up in the church, I know I got tons of stories, multiple churches that I've been to where there's a lot of church hurt and trauma that I had to work through and process through on my own as well in order for me to redevelop a brand new, unique, authentic relationship with God for myself, not because somebody else told me to. They ended this episode with some things that they thought women should know. And I want to share some of those things with you because I thought that they were powerful. But I want to pause real quick and talk about Ray J. There was something going on with him. I can't pinpoint it right now because again, this is real fresh in my head and I haven't let this marinate as much as I would other review videos that I do. So either he was on something or he wasn't on something, if that makes sense, right? Because sometimes when you're used to medicating and you're used to being in a particular state, when you're not on something, you come off as a certain type of way, right? And I just feel like he needs prayer. There's a lot going on with Ray J. At some point, he got up from the table and went and smoked a cigarette and then come back for like 30, 40 minutes and the show and the episode was over. So it was like, Ray J, well, what happened, boo? Talked about how he hates the church. He's had tons of experiences where he just didn't know what to do. And I felt like Kirk was trying to reel him in and constantly going back to him and saying, what do you think about this? And what has brought you through? And what, you know, has helped you along the journey? And it was like pulling teeth a little bit. Basically was asking Ray J the same question, but in multiple different ways to try to get an authentic response from him. And I don't think Ray J was intentionally trying to dodge questions. I just think he was only able to share what he was able to share. And him and NLE, they got into a little bit of a heated disagreement. I mean, there was still respect there and it didn't get too turned up, but it absolutely came to a place where it was like, okay, NLE is not seeing what other people have experienced in regards to time and experience. And he's placing or projecting what he's experienced onto other people. And so Ray J spoke up a little bit. And he questioned him and, you know, he said what needed to be said. But at the end of the day, I think that there's something deeper going on with Ray J, as we are all aware of. And he definitely needs covering. He definitely needs prayer. And I don't know him personally, but I'm not above praying for celebrities or people that are in the limelight. And he will be on my prayer list. So at the end of this, Kirk asked all of them to go around the room and say, hey, if there was some women watching this, like, what do you think that they should know about Black men or Black men's mental health or anything to help in their relationships? And they all said this. One of them said to just listen. Like sometimes we just need for you not to say anything, be quiet. You ain't got to fix anything, women. Just listen to what we have to say. The next thing they said is to not weaponize their vulnerability. So in those moments when they are raw, when they're vulnerable, they may be uncertain, they may be tearful, they may be not confident in a thing. Don't weaponize that later, meaning don't throw it back in their face. Well, remember that one time when you was crying? Remember that one time? Like women, we shouldn't do that. And the next thing that I believe even Jonathan Major said, he said just to be present and to reflect back some of the things that you're seeing. He talked about how Megan Good knows things about him before he really even knows things about him. She can see when he's tired before he sees, or exhausted or something creeping up. And she's able to be present to say, hey, babe, you need to slow down a little bit. Hey, maybe you need to take it slow. Maybe you need to rest today, you know, and just being there for them no matter what. Last but not least, Dr. J. Barnett said, just to be the aid and the support. You don't have to be a healer, women. You ain't got to try to fix and try to heal, because also that's not your responsibility. At the end of the day, if y'all are both on one accord and you guys are both believers, you got to understand that God is your partner's God too. He is your partner's father too. And if he's taking care of you, he's going to take care of your partner. So you can't go and be the place of God. You can't be his healer. You can't be his everything. You just need to be the aid, the support, and if you're a wife, a helpmate. So thank you so much for watching another review on my channel. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video. Be blessed. Bye.